Hey everybody, it's Elena Barbera. Welcome to the Based Mother Show. Tonight, I've got a guest. He's from the Garden State, New Jersey, Jack Brangan. He's running for District 6 State Assembly seat. It's his first time running for office, and he wants to tackle New Jersey's crushing taxes, their failing schools, and also crushing illegal immigration. Let's get right to it and bring Jack in. Jack, nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Elena. Good to see you again.
Yes. Yeah. Last week, both of us were guests on the America's Pulse Network last week,
Right.
and we had a very long, an hour-long conversation about what happened in Minnesota at the Annunciation Church. That was a tough conversation.
It was.
But, yeah.
It's one of those nightmare situations for any parent, and a nightmare in general. And it's still sort of unresolved. This is something that's queued up that could happen again. And, we just have to work and try to keep guns out of the hands of people that are not mentally stable. And that's, not to get back into that again, but I can't believe that somebody didn't know ahead of time that this was an unstable individual. And, the red flags did not go up ahead of time. So
we haven't really heard a lot about that, and I think that's a problem because we hear a lot from everybody supposedly wants to prevent this, but because it was a trans person, mainstream media is kind of being quiet about this and not digging on the story because they just don't want to make the trans community look bad at the expense of future potential future shootings, because we should know what went on in that home. Did anybody know anything? Did they not see him bringing the guns in? I mean, he had a lot of weapons. Anyway,
this is a bad habit we're getting into. The same thing happened in Nashville, I don't know, a year ago or so. And afterwards, there was a blackout on all the details. And you're right. It sounds like it's repeating itself, that we don't hear anything. So it's a little disturbing, because transparency is the best way to get to a solution to this problem.
Yeah.
And it always boils down to the mental stability of the person carrying the gun. And there may be a question about transgenderism and mental stability. That this is why it's going to go down a path that may not work out well for the woke liberals, because I have seen many articles about, if you are transgender and you are confused and suffering from gender dysphoria, that might or should disqualify you from having arms. So I think that's where the conversation is heading. And that's going to be I think the left is trying to put it to sleep so it doesn't get to that conversation, because they could lose it.
It's a very slippery slope, though, because I have a hard time giving the government so much power that they decide what is mentally fit to own a gun. Now, so this is a slippery slope we want to go down. I'm not sure. I don't know. We're certainly not going to solve it in a short conversation, but what do you think about it? Like that what I'm saying is, because somebody maybe suffered from depression at one point in their life. Like, are we going to go that far that 10 years ago you had a little bit of a depressive spell, so you can never own a gun again? I mean, I'm not for that.
No.
Yeah. We don't have to answer it all. We don't have to.
Yeah. If you're in the midst of your depression, it might be better that you didn't have a gun. If you're in the midst of your gender transphobia, it might be better. Now, later on, it may be different. Years later, you're no longer depressed, or maybe you're more stable, But I understand what you're saying. It is a slippery slope about who's stable and who's not, and that's it's a tough metric.
And I can tell you, I don't trust my government to make that call. So that's really, and I'm not alone in that distrust.
I'm with you there.
Yeah.
I think we all learned a lot under Joe Biden, that it's important that we remained armed, because our government is one of the dangers. It certainly can be. So
Yeah, unfortunately. That's a perfect place to get into why we're really here. So you're
yeah,
running for a state assembly seat in New Jersey in District
right.
6.
That's right.
You and it is a really, really difficult time to enter politics. I think politics has always been an ugly game, but I think it's uglier than it's ever been and more divisive than it's ever been. And there's so many ways to try to destroy an opponent. And I think it takes a lot of nerve to throw your hat in the ring these days. Tell me about your race and why you're running.
Yeah. Okay. So I never ran for an office like this before. Now I did run for Board of Education, which is slightly different. And when I ran for Board of Ed 2 years ago, that was the first time I ever ran for anything. And the reason I ran then was because of the New Jersey state curriculum is very heavy into gender ideology, which starts in kindergarten and is taught throughout the entire experience in the public school, K to 12. And when I started to sort of study it a little bit, it was upsetting to me because starting at such a young age, these are the most vulnerable, and these are our elementary school kids that really should not even be thinking about these things. But they are things that I would not agree with. They would try to normalize. So, but the point is, that was 2 years ago. So I decided to run for the Board of Education. And during that time period, I was speaking at the Board of Education. They give you, your 3 minutes, that sort of thing. And I really got frustrated with the 3 minutes because it accomplished, I didn't feel that it accomplished anything. At the end of the 3 minutes, they cut you off mid-sentence, and that's the end of it. And you're shuffled off, away from the microphone. So, and also during that time, I got involved with Moms for Liberty in New Jersey. And so we were looking at some of the curriculum statewide with other counties and other, other people in the state. So because of that experience with 3 minutes, I decided the only way I could ever change anything is to change it in Trenton. And this is one of the seats that is seated in Trenton. The way New Jersey is set up, they've got 3 branches of government. The governor, of course, is one seat, but then the House, we have the Assembly, State Assembly, and the State Senate. State Assembly has 80 people in it. State Senate has 40. And you mentioned Legislative District 6. Well, they have divided the state up into 40 districts. I'm in number 6. And if you were looking at a map and you saw Philadelphia and then went due east, you would hit Camden County. So I'm in that county. It's in the southern part of New Jersey. And it's near Camden City. Probably the largest town in the district is Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Another town is Haddonfield, Voorhees. So these are the larger towns in the districts, and people in Jersey know those towns, but across the country, maybe not. But yeah. So there are 20 towns in the district. So I'm running with Peter Sykes, and I'm not sure if you've had Peter on. I think you did.
Yeah,
yes.
I had Pete on I think it was last week, and he's
Constance.
And Constance. Yeah, I think she's running in D5, if I'm not mistaken. Your running mate Pete is a lot of fun. I mean, he is also a first-time candidate who just can't stand to watch the direction that the state is taking. So right. He is also putting a lot on the line to get involved. One of the issues that New Jersey is famous for, if we could get into it, is taxes. Yeah, like you have some of the highest property taxes in the country.
It is. Let me tell you what I think the fundamental issue is here is that, yes, there's problems with the taxes. Yes, there's problems with the school. We have a very blue state, which is slowly turning red. But the Democratic Party has run the state for the past 25 years. And by that, I mean, out of those three houses, three chambers, they have in the past 25 years controlled at least two. And in the past 8, they have controlled all three.
Wow.
And so anything that they ever wanted to do, they could do simply because there are more votes. There are more of them than us. And I think over the years, the Democrats grew to have contempt, I think, for the voters because of the type of laws and the type of administrative code and that sort of thing that they've passed, even though that there was uproar against it from parents, from the citizens, they didn't care. This is, they don't care what the people think. They would just go ahead and do it. And this came out, I think in many ways, when it came to the school curriculum, it came out in 2 waves. And it was 2021 when the first iteration of this comprehensive sex ed came out. And because it's not actually a law, it's administrative code from the Department of Education, they had to have public input. There was so much resistance to this curriculum that the number of emails, letters, people that came up to the podium to speak against this curriculum was an all-time state record. And yet they ignored everything and they just did what they want. And the first iteration of this was so bad that ultimately the people went right to the governor and just complained directly to him. And in my mind, the important thing to understand is really, so it's been pulled back a little bit, but what they really wanted was the first iteration.
Yeah, Phil Murphy's in on it, though. I mean, I'll let you finish, and then I can add to this. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. So this is a curriculum that's for sale. There is a outfit called CIGNA. It's the Sexual Instruction and Education Caucus of the United States, something very close to that. It is formerly, a subsidiary of Planned Parenthood. It was a lady named Mary Calderon that in the 70s started CIGNA. And CIGNA created this basically out of the mold of Planned Parenthood. There were other inputs from Advocates for Youth, which is another organization that is, they are striving for sexual justice or something of that nature, whatever that is. And then in New Jersey, there's an outfit called New Jersey Equality, and they are focused, or Garden State Equality, they are focused on transgender education. So they all had input to this. And the end result was that for kindergarten and first graders, there were lesson plans and there were lessons in the curriculum suggesting to these kids that even though you are a boy, that you may sometimes feel like a girl, even though you have boy parts. And the same thing with the girls, that even though you are a girl, sometimes you might feel like a boy, even though people say you have girl parts. So this is not a good foundation for these kids. And, this is the sort of thing that, really sort of got me up. This was just unacceptable to me.
It's child abuse, Jack. It is straight up mental abuse of the children. And it's sexual. It's sexual child abuse, childhood sexual abuse. It is non-contact sexual abuse to be talking to children about these types of things. And you will never convince me that it's not abusive. There's another part of this. A lot of people think that it's just the gender stuff that's going on in the schools, and part of the other component from Planned Parenthood and CIGNA. And and all these organizations that are in there, the Trevor Projects that they're and the Human Rights Campaign, which has infiltrated schools. It's not just gender indoctrination; it's also sexual indoctrination. New Jersey put in their basically, it's called the Freedom to Read Act, their version of it. which means that you can't remove sexually explicit books from the schools in New Jersey. No parent, according to this law, no parent could go to the school board, file a complaint and say, I want this, and this book removed because it's sexually explicit and it's obscene, and it's so obscene that if you gave it to a child outside of the school, you would be arrested. And that is what's happening. And so the fact is,
not only that, it offered also protection for the librarians, because many of these books violated the obscenity laws.
Right. Well, those laws, so they're called obscenity exemption statutes. And the funny thing is, they were about 3/4 of states have them. So if somebody's watching, again, you show this book, certain materials to a kid in a playground or at the mall, you'll leave in handcuffs. You give a librarian or a teacher gives it to them inside a school or a library, and they're exempted from criminal prosecution. The problem is it really is unconstitutional, because the Supreme Court ruled that parents and school boards do have the right to remove these books. So that is something that I would love to see rescinded in New Jersey. My understanding is, in order for you guys to get a majority, Jack Chitterelli needs to win, and you need to flip 13 assembly seats to red.
Right. 13. I mean, just to go back to the freedom to read, a lot of these things are for sale. This freedom to read bill came out of Chicago from the American Library Association. This bill has been sold to, I think, maybe 10 other states. So this is not, the freedom to read is something they're trying to roll out to flip these libraries within the schools to, again, further normalize and sort of complement what's going on with the curriculum.
Yes.
So the kids hear this in the classroom, and then they've got the books right there.
Yep.
And I'm sure you've seen the books. They're as pornographic as you can get.
You could go to you can find a lot of me reading, there's a lot of video of me on the internet reading from these books. Right. My documentary is about these books. So yeah, you and I are on the same page with this for sure.
Right. The other thing about the freedom to read and these books is that it teaches kids how to log on to adult websites, and it'll teach them about these websites, again, trying to, where the kids would normally be cautious, they try to normalize these sites, and it's okay. And again, going back to this first curriculum, they had this outfit called Amaze, who put out these pornographic cartoons that were available. They're available on YouTube, but they were part of the curriculum, and they were, in the cartoonish sort of way, would explain, well, pornography is normal. Everybody does it.
Masturbation, pornography, sex toys, sex shows. I mean, these books talk about all of it. This is an effort to normalize pedophilia. You will never convince me otherwise. These Sikhs and Planned Parenthood. Mary Calderon, she was, a disciple of Alfred Kinsey, who back in the 40s did sexual experiments on infants through teenagers, and just decided through his scientific study that all children are sexual from birth and we should treat them as sexual creatures. Why he wasn't thrown, burns at the stake like in a Salem witch trial is, beyond me. But the dark forces of the world took over, and people are still to this day now openly pushing sex on children. Yeah.
So it's not only the sex, but you can be something other than your sex at birth. You can change your sex.
Yeah.
This is where it gets, to me, borders on, now you're into witchcraft as far as I'm concerned. It is. This goes beyond anything that any society or religion in the history of mankind has ever taught their young people, until you hit Phil Murphy in New Jersey. And then all of a sudden, after, hundreds of years now, they're trying to make it normal. And
it's not just Jersey. This is in all 50 states. So the funny thing is, people believe that it's only happening in blue states. It's everywhere. And some states are taking a harder stance against it and pushing back harder. But what's happening is these teachers are coming out of college indoctrinated, ready to teach this stuff. So the teachers themselves are poisoned, and then they go in and poison the children, even if it's not in the official curriculum. They bring it into their classroom libraries. They bring it into conversations. It's extremely difficult to get away from it.
Yeah, it's several months ago, Constance, who was on a few weeks ago, and we went to a local university, and we were on a panel, and the subject was this freedom to read. And there were, I call them young graduates as they had degrees in library science, I guess. And yeah, they made reference to the American Library Association on a regular basis during the discussion. And I'm thinking, this is the worst source of information. This is no organization that you want influencing librarians coming out. So
the American Library Association is out and proud about pushing transgenderism on children. It's not even like you have to dig to find what their agenda is. It is a politically sex-driven organization where, I say it all the time, you can't trust your librarians anymore. You can't trust teachers anymore. And I know there are good teachers and good librarians who aren't pushing this, but the reason I say you can't trust them is because they're not speaking up to protect the children. And so if they're too afraid to protect children from words and these horrible ideas, I can't trust them with my kid either. That's how I see it.
I mean, just to finish this off, in this curriculum in 5th grade, they introduced puberty blockers. So why in the world would this be? I mean, this is in the original curriculum that came out of CIGNA. Yeah. Why would anyone in the state of New Jersey that's in the legislature want to expose a 5-year-old? Just the definition of it. And by 7th grade, the lessons eliminated all pronouns, and they made references to women as persons with a vulva. So these are all in the lesson plans. Now, Moms for Liberty and others pushed back, so they changed, cleaned it up a little bit. But the point is, this is what they really wanted, and this really tells me how deviant they are and how nefarious their intentions are. Because after 12 years of this, there is no one that can predict the mental stability of a person that's going to come out of high school with this sort of background. And, as I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, that maybe we're seeing the types that have guns in their hands that, this is not a good frame of reference for a young person to have this for 12 years. So that's one thing here in Jersey.
Yeah, no, it's a complete detachment from reality. So if you're detached from your own reality, you have no honor, respect for your own body. You're just willing to poison it, cut it up. Why would you respect anybody else's body? Why would you respect any reality at all? It's very disturbing. But I want to go back to what New Jersey needs, because I feel like it's, we're only talking about education, but there are a lot of crises in New Jersey, like actual crises. And in addition to the education one, and right now, Sherelle, how do you say Mikey or Mickey Sherelle?
It's Mikey Sherrill.
Mikey Sherrill. She is running. She is 7 points ahead of Jack Ciattarelli in the polls. That news just came out yesterday. Now, Kamala was also looking real good in the polls too. So, who knows? I mean, trusting polls is not something that any of us really, will hang our hats on. So, but
now last
still
time,
disturbing. It's still disturbing.
Yeah, just to put a little framework around that, I was at an event with, let's see, it was local people here in Haddonfield, and I think the last time Ciattarelli was down by 12 points going into the election, down by 12, and he almost won it. I think he lost it by 40,000 or something like that. But they had him. Ciattarelli was going to lose it by a landslide. So, it's a woke, newspapers, they're all very woke. So we're never going to get the reality out of this, I don't think. So I think it's closer, but There's a lot of enthusiasm on the Republican side, and I don't sense that on the Democratic side because Mikey Sherrill is not a very strong candidate. Number two, the Democrats have very little, to fall back on. They have, in many ways, destroyed this state. And this is a very critical time. And it's very important that the Republicans get back in control because we are so far in debt. The state budget has just been ballooning. I think it's up 20 billions in the last 8 years. And the interesting thing is we're sort of getting at a point of diminishing return with the taxes. And you mentioned that the estate taxes were the highest in the nation, and they are. Our corporate business tax is also the highest in the nation, where we are at 11.5% on the corporate business tax. The average for the rest of the states is 5%. So New Jersey is more than double the rest.
How is that affecting things? I mean, are businesses, are they leaving or is it just kind of stagnant?
Of course, people are leaving and businesses are leaving. We've lost, I don't know, maybe $50 billion in taxable personal income that has left the state only in the last couple of years. There's been like 35,000 people that have left. And this is all, per year. And these are upper income people. These are big numbers, leaving the state. And now, it leaves the burden on the rest of us. And at the same time, as you mentioned, there's this big influx of illegals, which, boosts up all the costs. So, it's a very critical time. We have to win. It's not only these the taxes, but between 23 and 24, the taxes went up again, but our revenue went down. So in other words, we added tax, or not we, the Democrats added more tax between 23 and 24, but when they added up how much they collected in 24, it was less than the prior year.
Wow.
So this is, I'm sure there's a name of it in economics somewhere, but it's the behavior where, yes, when you raise the tax, the revenue goes up, but at some point you're going to raise it so high that the revenue is going to start to slow down.
Yeah, I think it's shooting yourself in the foot. If I were writing an economics book, that's what I would call it.
People change their behavior. If it's costing too much, to ride New Jersey Transit, well, maybe they carpool. I don't know. They start doing things differently. But clearly, they don't buy as much. They're not going to buy that furniture. They're not going to buy the house. They're not going to do as much grocery shopping. Everything gets constricted. So the sales taxes are lower. They do stupid things like they increase the cigarette tax. Well, nobody's smoking anymore, right? So, so we're ending up in a position where, we're at a diminishing return. Just this past budget, there was $1.5 billion more in taxes, or an increase in taxes in the state budget. The Democrats have no idea, really how to apply any fiscal responsibility.
They don't want to. They don't want to. That's it. Yeah. I mean, I think they could figure it out if they wanted to. It's pretty simple.
Yeah. There is a big bucket called discretionary spending. This was $700 million in discretionary spending. Now, I would say probably 25% of that is probably worthwhile. It's paving roads, upgrading sewer lines, and infrastructure. But so 25% is probably valid. 75% of the discretionary, there is no metric. They will pour money into cities like Camden, $1 million here, $10 million there, and they call it all in discretionary spending. And on the surface, they look like good programs. But there's no audit, there's no oversight. So you don't know where it is. And there is no sunset. So
There's never any results. They'll sell these programs with a lot of fancy words and emotional polls, great marketing, but you never hear afterwards. Here's the results of what we accomplished ever, do you?
that's right. So they have things like I'm looking at the discretionary spending for my local district here. And they have things like for Rutgers University, $7 million. Okay. They got $3.2 million going to Rutgers for student success initiatives. Now, what in the world is that?
What does that mean?
What does that mean? Another $2.7 million for outcome-based allocation. They got $600,000 for operating support. So these are what they call the black holes. This is money going in somewhere, and there's no oversight, there's no audit. So one of the things that once all of us are elected, Pete, Constance, and I, and other people that would be allies with us in the legislature, I think we need to have every one of these line items reapply for their money and justify, why they need this money, this student outcomes. Explain to us what you are, why you need that much money. That's a lot of money. And I'm not saying it's not doing some good, but how are you going to measure it? And what is your sunset date? See, if you don't have a sunset date and you're in a reoccurring cost, then we must have reoccurring revenue in the budget to support you. You are not discretionary. You are, a cost line item. So therefore, we must have a revenue line item that goes with them. And I'm all for that, as long as, and this is how you put some sense into these numbers. You can't just be giving this stuff out because the numbers are huge. These are $24 million. Now, a lot of this is infrastructure. This looks good to me. But
you know what? Nobody follows the money. So, millions, hundreds of millions go out. Where does it really land? And I want to repeat again, we don't really see results. Again, we see, that's infrastructure. That's just a word now. And they'll do just enough to make you think that there's something going on. They'll put just enough, construction workers on the highway so that they're visible and you can see them and you think that you're getting something good out of it. Meanwhile, people are stressed to the nines about money. They can't afford to move, but they can't afford to stay where they are. Their kids are, coming home from school just confused. They can't read. Reading rates across America are in the toilet. We could go on. People are being injured, raped, robbed, and murdered still to this day by illegal aliens. Right. Not to mention what we do to each other as Americans. It's, following the money is a start. And even with all the Doge things out of Washington, we didn't hear that. We heard this money's being wasted, but we never, ever heard where the money actually went and whose pocket it ended up in.
Absolutely.
That's disturbing.
Yeah. One thing I will want to see is an audit for the last 5 years because, people around here in South Jersey know, Camden, where most of this money is going, has a decades-long history of being corrupt. It is so corrupt that the Camden School District has been taken away from the city and has been run it's being run by the state. The police force was so corrupt that they got rid of that, and now it's being run by a regional police force. So, and when you look at the towns, you see Cooper Hospital, Rutgers, billions of dollars going into those institutions. There's just surrounded with poverty. So yes, they do generate some jobs, but they're really not lifting the people up. Their living conditions are still as bad as they have always been. And unfortunately, there's a few characters, I'll call them Democrat power brokers, that are running these hospitals and have influence over. They are always the beneficiary. Let's put it this way.
Yeah.
Of all the tax credits from the state, it's the same people that are the beneficiary. And even though they're not elected officials, they get more money than the towns do, and they get more money, in tax credits than a school system. So, yeah, I want to audit all those people. And to the extent that we can use AI to go through the contracts and all of the financials, I think this would be a great opportunity. So you have the school situation that must be fixed. You have the tax situation that is out of control, and there are steps that can be taken. And then you have these the elephants in the room. You've got the illegal immigration that's, I would say, plaguing the state. This is not a referendum on whether these are nice people or not. It's only a question of whether they should be in the state. And the numbers for illegal immigration is somewhere around 1 million. This is costing us somewhere between $6 and $7 billion a year. And this is New Jersey tax money. This is not federal money. These are not grants. This is costing each family. 6 months ago was $2,400. There were still 6 months in the Biden administration when these numbers were worked up. It was $2,400 per family. It's probably like closer to $3,000 per family to support the illegal aliens for housing, food, legal services, medical services, emergency services, legal services.
That's a lot of money for the average person. Something like less than 60%. excuse me. Something like 60% of Americans don't have $1,000 in savings for an emergency on hand. Don't have $1,000, and yet here, so that number is probably similar for New Jerseyans, and to have them spending that kind of money to house and feed and do healthcare for people who really are not true asylum seekers or don't belong here. We're just bought Democratic voters and being used. Illegal aliens have just been used very cruelly, I think, by the Democrats.
I mean, this is part of the grand plan to destroy the country. The curriculum is part of it. Pornography is another part of it. There's no question about illegal immigration was to blot out Western civilization and to destroy democracy. There's no question about that. So I know Chitterelli, when he comes in, he did talk about no more sanctuary state, which is fine, which is great. Actually, he will start coordinating. But we need to shut off all the funds other than life-saving medical funds. We need to stop funding the housing. There's almost $1 billion in public school costs associated with all of the children involved, because very few, really speak English. So there's $1 billion right there that can be saved just for the schools. I would like to see him label New Jersey as a denial of service state, and where some states call themselves sanctuary states, we need to call ourselves a denial of service. I think we need to shut off all the public funds going to these to the illegal aliens. That title will make, if you're here in New Jersey illegally, that title alone is going to have you either repatriate to your home country or go to New York. Go
right across the bridge. Head on over. Yeah.
I would like to see the use of public funds for illegal aliens considered to be theft of public funds, and it would be a crime. I also want reporting done by school systems. Now, school systems will never tell you if there are any illegal alien children in their schools. Sometimes I've heard they call them homeless people. I don't know, but it's some obfuscated term that you really can't put your finger on. There really needs to be crystal clear reporting, not only in the schools, but in the hospitals. If they show up at a hospital, they don't have, they can't show that they are a citizen of the country. Well, if it's life-saving, you treat them, but you also report that this person showed up at the emergency room. because we're all paying for it, and we have a right. I don't think we have any obligation, moral obligation, to allow an influx of 1 million people that were not invited.
No, but you
Yeah.
do have a moral obligation to transparency to your taxpayers to show them where their money is going. And it seems that that's being stopped. That moral obligation is out the window in a lot of places like Massachusetts. The people voted for a state audit, and it's not coming. It hasn't even been started, and they've been screaming from the rooftops trying to get the governor and legislature to do the audit, and they won't do it.
Yeah. So immigration was never meant to be a humanitarian program. The immigration system was always used to help the country, to bring talent into the country. It could be people working in fields, it could be scientists, but it was a sort of a force multiplier helping the town, the city, and the country. So we bring in the best and the brightest. And number one, it was never used to be humanitarian. We have humanitarian programs that, with the UN and, many programs for that. But immigration was supposed to help us, was supposed to help America. And it's been abused terribly, by the Biden administration.
Terribly. This wasn't a humanitarian effort at all. I mean,
No.
The people that came in, God help me, they were chubby, well-fed. They had on Nikes. They had smartphones in their hands, and many of them paid $5,000 to $10,000 a head to get be walked across the border by a coyote. These people are doing better than most Americans. It was a farce, all of it. So I'm sorry, New Jersey has taken that route, but I hope you guys can pull this off. We got 2 months. Right, 2 months almost to Election Day, and
November 4th.
So what? Just to finish up, what are we doing between now and Election Day?
Well, two things. We are out in the 20 towns. Our goal is to get out into the neighborhoods. That's number one. This is the hard part. This is the retail level campaigning, getting people handing things out in the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Peter and I have been going to all the towns, have local concerts. You've got 500 to 800 people in one spot. We position ourselves with our literature, and as they exit, we're handing out, all of our literature. We now have a truck to go around that has our banners on each side, so we're going to start using that. And the other thing is to raise funds. That is the hard reality about these campaigns. It costs a lot of money. To do it right, you got to come up probably with even for a little race like this, around $20,000, $25,000. So we need to make that money up, and that is for not spectacular things, for all the signs, for the texting that we're going to do. Emailing, for handouts, all that sort of thing. So, we're going to be going high speed now.
Where can people go to contribute?
They could go to our website. It's votejackandpete.com.
All right. If you're watching on Rumble or YouTube, it's in the description. I've linked it there for you, Jack.
Yeah, it's easy to remember. Votejackandpete.com, and we've got more than one button to hit if you want to contribute. But it also has our some of our positions, has some background on Pete, background on me. And, so that's our plan from a campaign standpoint. We're going to start hitting our opponents directly because they're responsible for everything we talked about tonight.
Yeah.
And people have to be aware of that. The Democrats just think everything's great, so that's the challenge.
Well, the funny thing is they don't think everything's great. They just think that it's Donald Trump's fault.
Oh, right.
Whatever they don't like is just Donald Trump's fault. It's really astonishing that they can be sitting in a fire, in a burning building, and the Democrats are the one throwing gasoline on it, and they'll still blame Donald Trump. They just can't see the truth. I mean, there are people who are waking up to the truth and who I think will, there are some Democrats who I think you're going to get through to. And I believe that. And I pray that, man, you're able to flip this state. We're all rooting for you.
Yeah. Even Mikey Sherrill, the last time I saw her, she was talking about Donald Trump. We did not even get to the offshore wind, but because the result of all that are electric bills on top of all these taxes and everything going up. Now the electric bill has gone up, not $10, but a $75 or $100 a month. It's a big 20% jump, and it's all to pay back all this. So people are at a breaking point. And when I say people, I mean Republicans, Democrats, and independents. I'm sure many people now are making the hard decisions. Do I buy my medicine or do I buy food? That's really, especially people that are on a fixed income, an extra $100 a month is grocery shopping, and that's taken away from them now. So as I said in the very beginning, it is absolutely critical, for the state. We need to right this ship financially, educationally, every other way. Focus on New Jersey families. That is going to be our focus. I'm really sorry about the immigrants, but they have to go home.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that.
Simple. It's just that simple. Yeah. You have to go home. The party's over.
Right.
We need to be, and I am all for us being, giving humanitarian aid, but that system and that those emotional strings that they pull on the American people have been so abused. We've been gaslit once again. Humanitarian aid, we never see the results of any of it. We've given trillions of dollars out and nothing is better anywhere for it. Nothing is better anywhere. And we're all worse off for it. But yet our politicians are worth 25, 50, $100 million on average salaries. It doesn't make sense. Something stinks everywhere you turn.
We must point out that when Mikey Sherrill, who is in Congress currently, she became a multimillionaire while she was in trading stocks. So when she was on the defense committee, she was trading stocks on defense contractors. And based on the information she got, she bought or she sold. She increased her wealth somewhere around $8 to $10 million while she, during that period. And she paid a fine. Okay, so she paid it to keep it quiet and make it go away. But it also exacted a level of guilt on her, that she's guilty of this, like many of them are, in Congress. But
what's the fine when you're worth $10 million and you pay a nominal fine? I mean, it's worth it. It's worth it. Why wouldn't I?
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
So anyhow, that's where we are. I hope New Jersey does the right thing, because I'm going to keep going, win or lose. I'll still be involved, but people need to wake up, and we can live here a lot cheaper, and our kids will be a lot happier, a lot smarter, and everybody will be a lot richer if they elect Jack, Pete, and Constance. You put us in there, and Nielsa, who is running with Constance.
Yeah.
Our whole purpose is to lower the cost of living. The other thing we did not talk about is getting young people into single family homes and getting families started, because we're falling well below, the rate of replacement. We can't replace ourselves. We need families and we need babies. So,
if you can fix the cost of living, the taxes, the energy bills, and then, those are going to be the very first things that people will be thankful for. And then you stop indoctrinating kids. That last problem will solve itself. Young people, if they're not indoctrinated into thinking that they're non-binary, just nothingness, they will understand their roles in society and the way God designed us to be. And you will have that final wish too, where you have young people starting families. So let's do this.
Okay. Back in 1980, the 30-year-olds that were married and owned a home, it was over 50% of the 30-year-olds. Today, 30-year-olds that own a home and married, it's 8%.
It's sad.
So,
Sad.
and to get in a home is it's 7, 8, 10 times more expensive, more than a person's salary. Where back in 1980, it was 3 times more than a person's average
Yeah.
salary. So it's it's things are broken. So we're going to do what we can to fix it, at least in the Garden State here.
All right. Well, if you're watching, votejackandpete.com. You do not have to be, correct me if I'm wrong, Jack, but you do not have to be a New Jersey resident to contribute. So if you want to help a Republican, conservative, common sense candidate, outside of your state, please support Jack and Pete. Jack, thank you. It's been great.
All right. Thank you, Elena.
We may have to do this again. Thanks for coming.
Okay. Thank you.
New Jersey is so broken. Oh boy, Jack's got his work cut out. Let's do what we can to support him, get the word out. And his so Jack Brangan, I say his name wrong every time, forgive me, and Pete Sykes. They're gonna hopefully take over District 6 in New Jersey and do their part to save the state. That's all I've got for you tonight, guys. Thank you for coming. Thanks for watching. Drop a sub, like the video, tell your friends about it, and also God bless you. God bless America. Good night.